Former Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan has been sentenced to 14 years in jail in a land corruption case. His wife, Bushra Bibi, has also been jailed for 7 years.
Reports also say that Bushra Bibi has been arrested from inside the courtroom at the Adiala jail.
Who is Imran Khan, really?
Yeah.
I mean, is he just a cricketer?
Well, he's obviously more than that, right? I mean, this guy has been through it all.
He really has, and it seems like every time he gets knocked down, he just gets back up even stronger.
So how do we unpack this enigma?
Well, lucky for us, Khan wrote an autobiography.
Oh, perfect. Pakistan. A personal history.
Right.
A first-hand account to really get inside his head.
Exactly. It's like a roadmap, not just of Khan's life, but of Pakistan's turbulent journey as well.
That's what I find so fascinating about this deep dive.
Oh, for sure.
His story really is kind of Shakespearean, isn't it?
Yeah, you've got ambition, idealism, but also this constant struggle against the status quo.
And the book is just full of these incredible stories.
Like what?
Well, for example, did you know Khan actually helped his brother-in-law win a bet during a cricket match?
Seriously?
To clear his party's debts.
No way, the guy who never gambled.
The one and only.
Wow, that's wild. Talk about commitment. Right. And you see that same commitment throughout his whole life.
You're right, whether it's building the cancer hospital or taking on the political establishment.
It's like he has this unshakable belief in his own path.
Exactly. And I think that's the key to understanding Imran Khan.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning.
Sounds good.
Let's rewind back to Lahore in the 1950s.
Okay.
Khan describes this pretty idyllic childhood, right? Playing cricket in these huge gardens at Zaman Park.
A life of privilege, for sure.
Surrounded by family, a sense of belonging. But even then...
Even then, what?
There's this hint of something else, this shadow beneath the surface.
Interesting. What do you mean?
Well, he talks about watching Lahore change so rapidly. The city growing, the green spaces, disappearing, the canal where he used to swim, getting polluted. It's like he's already mourning the loss of a simpler Pakistan.
Right. This idea of a lost paradise that he keeps coming back to.
Exactly. And it's fascinating how that early exposure to the downsides of progress shapes his later activism.
You mean his environmental work?
Yeah, exactly. He becomes this huge advocate for protecting Pakistan's natural beauty.
Like it's a personal mission for him.
Totally. And then there's this other really interesting dynamic at play in his childhood.
What's that?
The tension between tradition and modernity.
Oh, yeah, I see that.
On the one hand, you have his family, very traditional, strong Islamic faith, a deep sense of duty. But then he's sent to Aitchison College, one of the most elite English medium schools in Pakistan.
Right, so he's getting exposed to Western ideas, a more liberal worldview.
Exactly. And that internal conflict between tradition and modernity, it's a theme that runs throughout his whole life.
And really it reflects the struggle within Pakistani society itself, right? This pull between its Islamic heritage and the allure of the West.
Absolutely. Now, of course, we can't talk about Imran Khan without talking about...
Or cricket.
For many people, he IS cricket.
The legend.
You mustn't drop it. That I feel very proud that at the twilight of my career, finally I've managed to win the World Cup. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Away from his competitive side.
Oh no, he was fierce.
Fierce is an understatement. He even says, if you don't crush your opponent, he will crush you.
Whoa, talk about intense.
All right. But that same drive, that obsession with pushing himself to the limit,
yeah,
it's what he brings to everything he does.
I see that. Yeah, the cancer hospital, his political career, even his spiritual journey.
It's like that single-mindedness becomes his superpower.
Makes sense.
There's this great story in the book about him discovering a flaw in his bowling action.
Oh, yeah, what happened?
He was so obsessed with fixing it that he literally dreamt about it until he found the solution.
Wow, that's some serious dedication.
Right. And that's what sets him apart. He's never willing to settle for anything less than perfection.
But it's not just about winning at all costs, is it?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
He's also incredibly self-aware.
Meaning?
He's constantly analyzing his failures, figuring out what went wrong so he can learn and grow. He even talks about his first electoral loss in detail.
Oh, wow. Breaking down what he learned from it.
Exactly. And that's what allows him to keep bouncing back.
So it's not just about talent, it's about resilience.
Right. And that resilience is a huge part of his appeal.
Makes sense.
Like he's constantly evolving, never giving up.
Yeah, I see that.
And then comes a major turning point in his life, building the Shaukat Khanum Memorial Cancer Hospital.
Ah, yes. This is where things get really interesting.
It's where that competitive drive gets channeled into something much bigger.
A truly noble cause.
And
कि जो भी आदमी एक दफा यहाँ इस हॉस्पिटल में एंटर होता है, आपने उसको इंसान समझना है.
the story of how he built that hospital is incredible.
I bet it wasn't easy.
Not at all. He faced skepticism, opposition people, accusing him of using the project for personal gain.
Wow.
But he just kept pushing forward.
And in the process, we see a new side of Khan, right?
Absolutely. That ruthlessness from the cricket field, it's tempered with this incredible compassion.
Like he's finally seeing the suffering of others up close.
Exactly. He's confronting the realities of poverty, the failures of Pakistan's healthcare system, and it lights a fire in him.
I can imagine.
There's this really powerful story in the book about an old man he met in Mayo Hospital. What happened? The man was desperately trying to raise money for his brother's cancer treatment, but he just couldn't afford it.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
It is, and it clearly had a huge impact on Khan.
Yeah, it's like a turning point in his understanding of what it means to serve his nation.
For sure. And the hospital becomes his life's work, a symbol of his commitment to social justice.
And it's a testament to his willpower, too, right? To actually pull something like that off.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
He rallied people, got them to believe in his vision, and proved that change he has possible, even in a country as troubled as Pakistan.
That's really inspiring.
And it's what elevates him from a national hero to something more.
What do you mean?
He becomes a symbol of hope for people, a beacon of change, and that ultimately sets the stage for his move into politics.
Okay, so from the cricket pitch to philanthropy to politics.
It's quite a journey.
Can't wait to hear more.
Okay, so we've got this national hero, right? This philanthropist building hospitals, and then he decides to jump into the world of Pakistani politics.
Yeah, and let's be honest, Pakistani politics is not for the faint of heart.
Talk about a Shark Tank.
It really is a game of alliances, betrayals, power struggles, constantly shifting.
And into this walks Imran Khan, the ultimate outsider.
Right, he's used to doing things his own way, not playing by the established rules.
But before we even get to his political career, there's this whole other layer of complexity.
Oh yeah, his personal life.
Specifically his marriage to Jemima Goldsmith.
Right. The British heiress. It was a huge story at the time.
I mean, this is the early 90s, right? A global celebrity marrying into one of the wealthiest families in the world.
And for Pakistan, it was a major cultural moment.
Absolutely. And the book really doesn't sugarcoat the challenges they face.
I can imagine the media scrutiny must have been intense.
Oh, it was relentless. And then there were the cultural differences, the whispers, the accusations. It was a lot to handle.
Especially for Jemima. I mean, she was so young, thrust into this completely foreign world.
Khan talks about how hurtful it was, especially the accusations of a Zionist plot.
Oh, wow, that's awful.
Yeah, these completely baseless claims that Jemima was somehow part of a conspiracy against Pakistan.
It's crazy, and it really reveals this darker side of Pakistani society, doesn't it?
Yeah. Absolutely. This deep distrust to the West, this tendency to see enemies everywhere.
And it shows how dangerous it can be to challenge the status quo.
Right. Khan's personal life becomes a weapon used against him.
A way to discredit him, undermine his political ambitions.
Exactly, and it's something he'll face again and again throughout his career.
This idea that anything is fair game in Pakistani politics.
It's a tough game to play.
It really is. And there's this other interesting point he makes about marriage.
Oh yeah, he compares his own love marriage to Jemima with the tradition of arranged marriages in Pakistan.
Right. It's a big cultural difference.
And it shows how he's constantly navigating these two worlds, his own personal choices versus the expectations of a very traditional society.
He's not afraid to question things, even those deeply ingrained cultural norms.
No, he's not. And that independent streak, that willingness to challenge convention, It's a big part of who he is.
But it also makes him a target.
Oh, for sure. And nowhere is that more evident than in his stance on
Things get really controversial.
Khan is incredibly critical of the U.S. intervention in Afghanistan and Pakistan's role in it.
He doesn't hold back at all.
No, he calls it a cancer
Yeah.
that's metastasized throughout Pakistani society.
And he blames both the U.S. and the Pakistani government for perpetuating this conflict.
It's not just political for him, though, is it?
What do you mean?
Well, he shares these really harrowing stories of people who came to him after their loved ones were disappeared by Pakistani authorities.
Caught in the crossfire of this so-called war on terror.
Exactly. And his account of Dr. Afia Siddiqui's case is particularly disturbing.
Oh, yeah. That's a whole other rabbit hole.
It really highlights the dark underbelly of this conflict. The secret prisons, the renditions, the complete disregard for human rights.
It's chilling stuff.
And it clearly had a profound impact on Khan.
Yeah, you can feel the anger and the sadness in his writing.
It solidifies his belief that the war on terror was not only morally wrong, but strategically disastrous.
And he's willing to risk his reputation to say it.
Absolutely. He's called a terrorist sympathizer, all sorts of names.
But he doesn't back down.
Nope. He keeps speaking out even when it makes him unpopular.
And that resonates with a lot of people in Pakistan.
Especially those who are disillusioned with the status quo, the corruption, the inequality.
They see him as someone who's not afraid to speak truth to power.
Exactly. And that lays the groundwork for his political vision, this idea of creating a Naya Pakistan, a new Pakistan.
Free from corruption, free from Western influence, a truly independent nation.
But to understand that vision, we need to talk about his concept of enlightened Islam.
Right, he sees it as the answer to the extremism that's plaguing Pakistan.
A more tolerant, more intellectually vibrant interpretation of Islam.
So it's not just about politics, it's about a whole societal transformation.
Exactly, and that's what makes his story so compelling. All right, so we've got this vision for a Naya Pakistan, right? This idea of a more, just more equitable society grounded in enlightened Islam.
But how do you actually translate that vision into reality, especially in a political landscape as complex as Pakistan's?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
I mean, remember, we're talking about a system that's been dominated by dynasties, by the military, by deep-rooted corruption.
And here comes Imran Khan, this former cricketer, this philanthropist, shaking things up.
Yeah, he's not exactly your typical politician.
He forms his own party, Tehreek-e-Insaf, the Movement for Justice, and a lot of people at first.
They didn't take him seriously.
Oh, they thought it was a joke. Another celebrity trying to get into politics.
Right. But Khan, he proved them wrong.
He did. He started holding these massive rallies, drawing in huge crowds, especially young people who were tired of the old ways.
He was speaking their language, tapping into their frustrations.
And he offered them something different. This idea of a Naya Pakistan.
A Pakistan free from corruption with a strong Islamic identity, but also modern and progressive.
He was promising to break the cycle of dynastic politics to hold the powerful accountable.
A bold vision for sure.
But of course, it wasn't all smooth sailing.
Oh no, he faced a lot of pushback.
He was accused of being too close to the military, of pandering to religious extremists, of not having the experience to govern.
It's like they threw everything they could at him.
They did, but he didn't give up.
No, he kept fighting, kept running for office, even when he faced setbacks, even when there was electoral rigging, even when he was imprisoned.
It's incredible, isn't it?
Talk about resilience.
And then in 2018,
The unthinkable happened.
Tehreek-e-Insaf wins the general election.
And Imran Khan becomes the Prime Minister of Pakistan.
I mean, it was a huge moment, a real turning point in Pakistani history.
The outsider, the critic, had finally made it to the top.
But as we know, being prime minister is a whole other ballgame.
Oh yeah, the stakes are much higher.
He inherited a country with a ton of problems, a struggling economy, social unrest.
And, of course, that deep-rooted corruption.
He tried to make changes, introduce social welfare programs, crack down on corruption, tried to improve relations with neighboring countries.
But it wasn't enough for some.
Right. His critics argued that he wasn't doing enough, that he was becoming authoritarian, silencing dissent.
And the political climate in Pakistan, it's always volatile.
It really is. And ultimately, he was ousted from power in 2022 after a vote of no confidence.
In favor of the resolution. Consequently, the resolution for vote of no confidence against Mr. Imran Khan, the Prime Minister of Islamic Republic of Pakistan, has been passed by a majority of the total membership of the National Assembly.
A dramatic fall from grace?
It was, but even in defeat.
Khan remained defiant.
Oh, he launched protests, rallied his supporters, accused the opposition of being part of a foreign conspiracy to remove him.
And then he was imprisoned on corruption charges.
Which he and his supporters see as politically motivated.
Right. An attempt to silence a powerful voice.
And that's where we are today. Imran Khan is out of office, but he's still a major force in Pakistani politics.
A symbol of hope for some, a divisive figure for others.
He's definitely left his mark on the country.
And his story, I think it really speaks to the complexities of leadership in a place like Pakistan.
It's a country grappling with its identity, its place in the world.
And Khan's journey, it reflects those struggles.
He's this fascinating mix of tradition and modernity, of idealism and pragmatism.
And whether you love him or hate him, you can't deny that he's shaken things up.
He's forced people to confront some uncomfortable truths about their country, about themselves.
And that's a powerful legacy to leave behind.
So what's next for Imran Khan? What's next for Pakistan?
Those are the questions we're left with.
But one thing is for sure, this story is far from over.
And we'll be watching closely to see what happens next.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the life and times of Imran Khan.
It's been a fascinating journey.
And we hope it's given you a better understanding of this complex and compelling figure.
A man who continues to shape the destiny of Pakistan.
Please remember one. You only lose when you give up. Remember this. Remember this over and over again. You only lose when you give up. If you do not give up, you will win from the most incredible positions. The fight is in the mind. It's not physical, it's in the mind. As long as the mind refuses to accept defeat, each setback will give you an opportunity to analyze yourself. Where did I go wrong?